Hey guys, Philosopher here, and today I have my initial impressions on how to build your Ravagers. I will say I don't usually do these initial impression videos. This is actually my second take on this one because I very quickly discovered some errors in my first one. But I think at this point I'm getting a little bit more confident about it. I'm going to put this out because I've been getting a lot of requests. Don't do these often, but this is really what I think the ISO setup probably is going to look like on your Ravager. So you can see for Star-Lord T'Challa, I really think he's going to have to be a skirmisher unless you just have him really large. You know, he is a character that basically is a single target damager, which is just okay, except for the fact that he's got this really special ability where he applies blind, and then if the blind lands, he steals up to 2 ability energy. You know, his focus isn't horrible, but, you know, realistically, particularly since you're probably going to have less stars on the character and you're going up against some big teams in war, you know, you want to make sure you land that blind. So I think that most of us are going to be running him as skirmisher. I've been doing that even though I have 5 red stars on the character. You know, I'm not saying he doesn't have other good qualities, but that is why I have him as skirmisher. Now, I'm going to go through the T4s as well. But, you know, the reason I say it's unfortunate he has to be skirmisher is that Ravager Boomer assists non-minion Ravager allies. And so ideally what you'd like to do is have kind of a triple tap setup where you have skirmisher and then you'd have striker on both Yondu and Star-Lord T'Challa. If you do have like a 7 red star, Humongo or G16 Star-Lord T'Challa, then go ahead and do that. Have him as a striker. But I think for the most part, you know, most of us are going to run this. So Ravager Boomer and Yondu will get that triple tap because Yondu, of course, is also a non-minion Ravager. And so that's why we do that. The triple tap is sort of like, you know, an interaction you might get like between Black Widow and Hawkeye or between Proxima and Corvus, if you're familiar with that, Cloak and Dagger, that sort of thing. So then we have, you know, Ravager Stitcher and Ravager Boomer. And Ravager Stitcher, I originally had as healer, but I think I was convinced actually by some comments from viewers that he's probably better off as a striker. He actually gets that non-revive. You know, on the, you know, this kind of characters killed by this attack can't be revived on the ISO attack. And he really, most of the healing is going to come from the health steal, which of course is not affected by the healing ISO. So it would just be this additional, the additional healing. So probably this is going to be fine to have just get more, you know, more ISO attacks, more, you know, more additional attacks out of this team. And then Ravager Bruiser, I think you could certainly have him as a fortifier if you just want to make sure he holds up well, although fortifier really isn't good until you get blue ISO on him, and I imagine most of you aren't going to have blue ISO on him right away. You know, you could have him as a healer, but as skirmisher, it does give him some additional focus to make sure he steals buffs. So now let's copy positive effects. All right, so let's talk a moment about the T4s and what I think about these T4s. I'm going to walk through them now. Just initial impressions. I'm going to come out with an infographic much later once I've had a chance to test the team more. But my initial impressions here are the, you know, for the passive for Star-Lord T'Challa, I think is absolutely necessary for war. 25% max health on the team is pretty huge. And I got to say, guys, I think this is just a war team. I really think it's a fantastic war offense team. I'm going to show you a 300K punch-up I did against Black Order with the team in just a minute. But I don't think this team is worth running. Any of the members of this team are really worth running in Doom Raid. Star-Lord T'Challa is just a single target damager. He's kind of a one-trick pony with the stealing of the ability energy. I just don't see it. I mean, maybe you run him on the boss node for that one-trick pony on Doom, but I don't see it. I think there's just better options out there. So I wouldn't bother with these characters for Raid, but I do think they're a very good, well above average war offense team. Not elite, and they're not going to beat the Eternals, you know, regularly or something like that, or, you know, Infinity Watch, but they're a very, very good team otherwise. One of the better war offense teams. So, you know, that I think is going to be necessary for war. This, I think, is just a nice to have. It's certainly, if you're running him on the full team, is much, much nicer because the team is going to have tons of buffs all the time because they're going to be stealing him. So for that reason, I think, this is borderline essential, but probably just very high on the nice to have list because going from 3 to all is really nice, plus an additional 100% damage on a character that is the highest damager in the game in terms of just pure damage level. So, that is something worth noting here. You could see on the MSF.gg stat table, he is number 1 in terms of damage. So anytime you can get initial 100% damage there, that is definitely, something, nothing to sneeze at. And then this is the most essential ability, I think, essential T4 in the entire team, because if you're not, going to have him stealing as much ability energy as possible, I don't know why you want to run Star-Lord T'Challa. He's a great standalone character, I think, can be used. If you don't build up the rest of the team, you can just use him, build up him, and use him in war to counter like Silver Surfer. He's a great counter to Silver Surfer, and I'm sure you can counter other characters like Doom and so forth as well. So I think for most of you, that's what you're going to end up doing. Building up this character large, sometimes using him solo. Maybe you will build up the rest of the team, to whatever, gear tier 12 or something, just so you have a team to use with him. It does punch up quite large. I'm going to show you that in a minute. I put gear tier 14 on the rest of the team just to see how the team does, and you'll be impressed, I think, with the results. It also, by the way, makes a good blitz team. I even before Star-Lord T'Challa, I was running these 4 in blitz for the Ghost Spider, Spider-Gwen blitzes, and these 4 did very well in blitz. So it's not an awful team to at least build to some level. Yondu, I think that the 20% focus per Ravager ally is huge in war. So that's 80% focus. And then copying and clearing all of their positive effects, I think, versus 3, I think is, once again, very nice to have. I mean, this, if not essentials, in the very, very nice to have category. And plus, by the way, this also means that your summons, the Yondu summons, are going to have that T4 done. The other T4 that I've been looking at is getting both summons 100% of the time versus having I think it's an 80% chance to summon the second Ravager ally. And then you can see here that means that the special will also be T4'd on the summon, which I think is worth it for Ravager Boomer, for example, and for Ravager Stitcher. So I think that's worth it. Okay, you get additional healing there, but more importantly, on Boomer, you get the additional speed bar reduction, and that's actually quite valuable and important thing for this team. For Ravager Boomer, I think the passive is really nice. Always assisting non-minion Ravager allies, I think, is very nice, versus having essentially only having a chance to do that. And then I think I'm going to just do this right now. I think this is pretty necessary. The speed bar reduction is just, I don't know, necessary, but very nice to have. I would say necessary, but very, very nice to have. And by the way, I have a lot of T4s, guys, so I think one of the issues for many people building this team is it is another team that requires T4s. So if you're not, finishing super high in raid season all the time, or a very veteran player, that's not going to happen for you. Ravager Stitcher, I don't really see any of these as necessary. This applies regen for 2 turns. That's okay. Here, we have some additional healing. I think the health steal is enough. This always applying peel block versus 70%. I just don't see that any of those as necessary. I should also say here, this I just think always applying slow, just okay. And I'll just show you here too. I think just additional damage there. And here, just getting more focus. I think he already gets plenty of focus and some additional piercing. I think this is actually a nice to have, but how many people are going to put that many T4s in this team? Here, I did a lot because I really like defense up as 50% damage reduction, 50% focus increase. So getting that for 2 turns on spawn is nice, but this is very much in the nice to have category, I think. At least that's my initial impression. Here, the defense up for the entire team every 2 turns. Yes, please. Want that buff 100%, especially since it's going to get copied and extended by other members. So let me just show you a little bit about the positioning of this team first before we go into and I show you a war attack so you could see how the team functions in practice. So here's how I have the team positioned. I've got Ravager, Bruiser on the side, and I have T'Challa between Yondu and Bruiser because Bruiser's going to be stealing buffs. Yondu's going to be stealing buffs, so I have a lot of buffs, which, of course, are going to be copied and extended here by Star-Lord T'Challa. And then you've got Stitcher, all the way, the healer, all the way on the other end with Boomer in between. I think that's the right positioning for the team. And let's just take a look here. I'll show you the war attack so you could see the team in action. This is the punch-up. This was a 300K punch-up, 658K Ravagers against 958K Black Order, which all had blue ISO on them. And you saw the team I had. It's the same team just now before I did that one upgrade on Boomer. Let's take a look at that team in action. I will pull that up right now so you could see it for yourself. Here we go. So this is the team here. It's actually a pretty easy fight. I think it's so easy that I probably could have done an even bigger punch up. And I think, this is showing kind of how this team does, even against a massive Black Order. And, I guess from my perspective, it just makes me think that I would think that this would translate to lower gear levels, because I know for a lot of you that's what you're interested in, is how this team would do it G12 or something like that. I think a lot of these characters, very well may be able to punch up, at gear 12. Now, I don't know if they'll punch up obviously quite this much, but this is I'd say a pretty good result. You can see the fight's already turning around here. You got the blind and the steel on Cull Obsidian, and then at this point the battle's basically the tides turn, because you can do all the turn meter reduction so that Thanos doesn't even take a turn. I probably could have tried to take out other characters first instead of just taking out Thanos, but my thought process was, if I just take out Thanos, the team's going to lose, because Thanos doesn't do his ult. And if he doesn't do that, I think it's basically game over, okay, for this team. And that's that. As you can see, this is essentially an easy 300K punch-up. I mean, this is basically a foregone conclusion. It's a total mop-up. And, it just goes to show you kind of how far Black Order has gone down. So if at your level in war, Black Order is still very important, you'll start, seeing some folks who are building these new teams. Obviously, the Uncanny team with Magic now easily destroys Black Order on a pretty, very reliably in a punch-up on auto, basically. And the same thing here. You could tell this is just a trivial fight. 300K punch-up really looks like a 300K punch down with how this goes. So definitely a team worth considering if you care about Alliance War offense. I also think I think you can get some bang for your buck, in Blitz and elsewhere by building this team cheaply, building just maybe T'Challa large, or you can use T'Challa standalone. I think on a hybrid team, he'll do a very nice job countering characters like Silver Surfer. That may be very useful to you. So in any event, I think definitely a team worth considering for some of you, but let's face it, it is definitely a luxury. I know a lot of you are going to be more focused on raid characters or other things, and this is perhaps a team that you're going to keep on the side, but I would definitely collect those Star-Lord T'Challa shards, work hard in that Blitz, because this is a team that has a lot of potential, and he's a character that's very interesting standalone, so definitely worth considering building that team in the future. All right, guys, if you like that video, smash that like button, subscribe to this channel. If you got comments or questions, cheers or jeers, leave them below. Or you could just go to my Discord. Lots of great conversations there. You can also check out my Twitch stream, which is linked below. And if you want to support the channel, use the Amazon coins link below to get Amazon coins and use them on MSF offers. That supports us as well.